Kamen Riders, superpowered humans who defend the Earth from extra-normal threats. For the last 45 years, we've watched the adventures of these heroes unfold on our TV screens. However, with the advent of video games, we've been able to step into the shoes of the writers. Now, there are a ton of Kamen Rider games, spanning from the Super Famicom to the Wii U, but the ones that caught my eye only started popping up in the last couple of years. These are the Kamen Rider Battride war games, and as you can tell by the title of this video, I'm not going to be talking about the first two, we're just going to jump straight into the third game. So let's take a look at Kamen Rider Battride War Genesis. These games are Japan exclusive, and as such are in Japanese. I am not fluent in Japanese, and so I have no damn clue what the story is. Thankfully, I have the power of Google, and according to the game's Wikipedia page, the story is as follows. The evil Shadow Moon has used time travel to make the first enemies of all the riders stronger so that they all die in their first fights. The only riders to survive this are Kamen Rider Den-O, thanks to his time-traveling train, the Den-Liner, just go with it, and Kamen Rider Ghost, because he's already dead. The two riders must work together to save the other riders and ultimately defeat Shadow Moon. The story is incredibly simplistic, and clearly not a lot of thought was put into it. I can't speak for the game's overall dialogue since it's all in Japanese, and as I mentioned before, I'm not fluent in Japanese, so I've got no clue what anyone's saying. The gameplay of Battride War Genesis probably looks familiar to you if you've ever played a game like Dynasty Warriors or Hyrule Warriors. And as I mentioned when I reviewed Hyrule Warriors a while ago, I very much enjoy the gameplay style of Dynasty Warriors, but don't really care for the whole Chinese history setting, so taking that gameplay style and placing it in something that I am interested in is a recipe for success. If you haven't played those games before, I'll give you a quick rundown of how they work. You're placed on a battlefield swarming with enemies and you control only one character. You have to slash through hordes and complete objectives, in this game it's usually just fighting more enemies, until you eventually finish the stage. A lot of the areas in this game are fairly large and walking is not always an optimal mode of transportation. Thankfully, most riders have a motorcycle to allow them to move around maps faster, which you can summon with the R2 button. Every rider also has a super and ultimate form that they can access by pressing L2. Going into these forms not only causes the riders to pull off an incredibly powerful attack, but it also increases their overall attack and defense until the super bar in the corner of the screen depletes. Speaking of the riders, there are a lot of playable riders in Battride War Genesis. How many, you ask? Well, let's list them all off. Kamen Rider Ichigo, Kamen Rider Nigo, Kamen Rider V3, Kamen Rider X, Kamen Rider Amazon. I am Amazon! Kamen Rider Stronger, Sky Rider, Kamen Rider Super 1, Kamen Rider Black, Kamen Rider Black RX, Kamen Rider Kuga, Kamen Rider Agito, Kamen Rider G3X, Kamen Rider Ryuki, Kamen Rider Knight, Kamen Rider Faiz, Kamen Rider Kaiza, Kamen Rider Blade, Kamen Rider Garen, Kamen Rider Hibiki, Kamen Rider Ibuki, Kamen Rider Kabuto, Kamen Rider Gatak, Kamen Rider Den-O, Kamen Rider Zeranos, Kamen Rider Kiva, Kamen Rider Ixa, Kamen Rider Decade, Kamen Rider Decade Violent Emotion, Kamen Rider DN, the AR version of Kamen Rider Kuga, Kamen Rider Double, Kamen Rider Double Fang Joker, Kamen Rider Joker, Kamen Rider Axel, Kamen Rider Eternal, Kamen Rider Oz, Kamen Rider Birth, Kamen Rider Forze, Kamen Rider Meteor, Kamen Rider Wizard, Kamen Rider Beast, Kamen Rider Gaim, Kamen Rider Baron, Kamen Rider Zangetsu Shin, Kamen Rider Drive, Kamen Rider Mach, Kamen Rider Chaser, who is free DLC, Kamen Rider Ghost, Kamen Rider Spectre, who is DLC as well, and Kamen Rider Ghost in his Tokon Boost form, who is also DLC. Those are all of the playable riders, but there are a couple of other characters who are support only, and those are Riderman, Kamen Rider Zekros, the Autovajin, Kamen Rider New Den-O, another version of Ixa that I don't know the name of because I haven't watched Kiva yet, Kamen Rider Dark Kiva, Kamen Rider Skull, and Kamen Rider Ryugen. Yeah, that's a lot of fucking characters, and surprisingly, none of them really feel too similar to any others. Well, aside from characters that actually are different versions of one rider, like AR Kuga and Violent Emotion Decade. Most of the riders have unique movesets and some control differences, and because of just how damn many riders there are, you're bound to find a pretty decent chunk of riders that you'll enjoy playing as. Just for the hell of it, my personal favorites are Kamen Rider Double, Kamen Rider Amazon, Kamen Rider Gaim, Kamen Rider Drive, and a bunch more. There are really only a couple of riders I really don't enjoy playing as. Battride War Genesis also sports a great soundtrack that I can't say much about. Pretty much the extent of what I can say is that it's good, though it's not something that's really going to stick in your head. On the slightly less positive side, we have Battride War Genesis's visuals. For a PS4 game, they're kinda weak, at least when it comes to the environments, but I don't think they're too awful. The character models in particular are actually really impressive, representing each rider really well. Some of the Showa riders look a bit thinner than they should, for example, Kamen Rider Stronger, but they still get the design of the suits pretty much perfectly. And unlike the previous games, Genesis doesn't reuse very many stages. There are one or two recycled from Battride War 1 and 2, but for the most part it's all new areas, which is great to see.
Kamen Rider Battride War Genesis is fucking awesome. If you're a Kamen Rider fan and you're looking for a game where you can play as your favorite riders, you really can't go wrong with this. If you're not too big into the Dynasty Warriors style of gameplay, then it's a bit of a tougher recommendation, but I'd still suggest giving it a shot. That's all for now, and I will see you guys next time. Oh, and happy 45th anniversary, Kamen Rider.